Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Sunday, July 28th. Over the next few days, we will continue to have to deal with wind and drier conditions. Most lightning activity will be pushed off to the east as a trough remains in place on the west coast. So we will see gusty winds again over southern areas with low relative humidity, although wind speeds won't be quite as high as what we saw yesterday. These winds will continue over the next couple of days, and we'll also see winds increase over parts of Idaho and over parts of the Sierra Front with low relative humidity. We will also see only some isolated storms today in Wyoming and then a drier day Monday before storms return to central Idaho, which will be a mix of wet and dry. Over the last 24 hours, we had a significant amount of lightning for northern Utah into eastern Idaho. And you can see from the precipitation here, these areas in darker blues or some light greens are rainfall amounts over a quarter, over a half inch. And we did see those in several areas in these areas in the blue. Yesterday, we had a reported 19 fires for just over 616 acres and still quite a bit of large fire activity in effect for the Great Basin with new growth on those large fires. Over the last 7 to 14 days, we've seen the driest conditions around the periphery of the Great Basin, and over central areas, we have seen precipitation which has been above normal in some areas for the time of year. Our ERC point map reflects that with the highest ERCs, again, around the periphery of the Great Basin, still critical in many of those areas, and definitely lower over central and southern areas. Currently, our ERC charts show in the Salmon Chalice, ERCs have been on the rise and will be likely increasing to near the 90th percentile by the end of the week. And over south central areas, although ERCs came down, they have been increasing and will again be between the 80th and 90th percentile this week. The satellite image from this morning shows this broad trough of low pressure in the west, which will be responsible for our drier, breezy conditions. Still some moisture up north, so again, we'll see that moisture push east today into Wyoming. Looking at the weather pattern for later today, again, with the very dry conditions in place across Nevada and Utah, and also with the gusty winds ahead of the trough, we do have that high risk, again, for southern areas and also up north in the Salmon Chalice. The winds up north will likely only be gusting between 20 and 30 miles per hour, and we'll likely see some gusts just above 30 miles per hour in the south with low relative humidity. You can see the single-digit relative humidity covers much of the southern half of Nevada and Utah, a little bit higher up north as that moisture gets pushed off to the east. And you can see the strongest gusts are in the south, but again, right around 30 miles per hour, and not quite as gusty up north, but we will see some wind gusts above 35 miles per hour in parts of Wyoming. Temperatures will remain on the cooler side, so near to just below normal in some areas. Thunderstorm potential, you can see that moisture really gets pushed off to the east. And then as we move into Monday, more of the same with still gusty winds and dry conditions across Idaho and in the south. And relative humidity, a lot more single digits in much of Nevada and Utah and more teens up in Idaho. Looks like tomorrow the winds will increase a bit in wind speed up in Idaho compared to what we'll see today. So we'll see more gusts in the 30 to 35 mile per hour range and still those similar breezy winds down south, but winds will start picking up along the Sierra Front with gusts around 30 miles per hour as well. Temperatures remain about the same. Thunderstorm potential, again, mostly off to the east. Could see a few cells skirt our boundary with Idaho and Montana and over into Wyoming, but very isolated. On Tuesday, the next trough moves in, and this will bring the increase of thunderstorm potential for central Idaho. So we do have a high risk for lightning for those areas as fuels are still critical and lightning will be a mix of wet and dry, and then still gusty winds down south with dry conditions. And you can see relative humidity, again, more in the single digits and teens in the south, but really an increase in relative humidity up into central Idaho as that moisture moves in. So again, we could see scattered thunderstorms, still kind of a mix of wet and dry, might be a little faster moving, but definitely higher humidity. Still we'll see those gusty winds, though, up north as well. Temperatures will drop a little bit in the north as that trough moves across and similar temperatures down south, and you can see the moisture up in central Idaho. 3-day amount of precipitation, again, more spotty precipitation up in central Idaho, better chances of precipitation up north. As we go into Wednesday through the end of the week, we'll start to see the trough presence move off to the east and the ridge really starts to build in across the west, so we will see temperatures gradually increasing from mid to late week. Still very dry conditions. Some moisture might start to push up into the Four Corners area for southeast Utah to see maybe some isolated thunderstorms, but no high risk yet, still just dry conditions and moderate fire potential. A little bit more moisture moves up on Thursday, so probably a better chance of isolated thunderstorms in the south. And then on Friday, a better chance over southern areas of the Great Basin. Temperatures really start to heat up later in the week towards the weekend and will be at least 10 degrees above normal. Some areas up north in Idaho could be pushing some record temperatures as we go towards late in the week. So we'll continue to watch that, but definitely a return of hot weather. Also, thunderstorms on Saturday will start to push up into western and central areas of Nevada and Utah. So each day the moisture gets pushed a little bit further north with the return of lightning. No high risk yet. We'll continue to watch that material as the thunderstorms materialize. Otherwise, spotty precip as the thunderstorms return. And then the 8 to 14 day outlook, there is some potential for above normal precipitation as there is some tropical activity brewing in the eastern Pacific, but that remains to be seen. Right now, we're just expecting more spotty precipitation and then warm and above normal temperatures. That concludes the webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.